Today's a perfect day to make more progress in the 300ZX build. I have two main things planned today. The very first is this tachometer adapter. For those of you who have been following along with this build, you know that it does not have the stock V6 in it. And if you're unaware, I swapped a KA24de into it, which I personally think fits much better in this engine bay. A lot of space to work on it, a lot of room for activities. And with any swap or conversion, there's always some hiccups along the way for things that don't line up. For example, the RPM or tachometer signal. What this little box does is convert the signal to work with the cluster, because currently the tachometer reads less than it should. For example, the KA may be revving to around 3 grand, but the tachometer will show 1500-ish. So it's not accurate at all. So we'll figure that out. And I'll show you guys how I put it in. And I also started hearing a weird sound coming from the front right. It's only over bumps, which makes me think it's a sway bar or something's going out, or maybe a blown shock or something. I don't know. Either way, we're gonna look into that as well. I honestly haven't looked into the suspension very much on this car, just because I know I'm gonna put coilovers on it eventually. It's been fun driving at stock height for a while, and the front rake is kind of hilarious, but it's time. It's time for wheels and coils. Time to make this thing cool. Speaking of cool, I actually received another piece to the body kit that I've been trying to piece together. I really wanted to get all Bomex stuff because of the front bumper that I found, but I found this mid-mount wings west wing, which I think looks sick. I'll test mount it in a bit here, but honestly, I need to clean the garage. I got wheels all over the place, seats, merch, boxes. Sometimes when it's this messy, it makes it a lot harder to focus. So I think the very first thing we should do is clean the garage. Well, I guess that's a little better for now. And is this a work truck or a garbage truck at this point? Let's dig into the tachometer adapter. First thing we're gonna do, take out the floor mat, go behind the wood panel. And if you're new to the channel or new to 300ZXs, wood panel is factory. Pretty wild. Okay, this is the keyless entry box. This is the sub harness. All right, just in case you guys missed this, a few videos ago I jumped the KA24de harness to the 300ZX body harness. And that connected the tachometer and the water temp sensor. That might have been it actually. But either way, we need to use this harness to install this adapter. Now it technically doesn't have to be installed here, but the rest of the harness on either side, KA or 300ZX, is uncut. So if I can do it on my little bridge that I made here, that would be perfect. It's also important to note that this has to be installed after the ECU. You don't want to interrupt the signal to the ECU because who knows what'll happen. Probably won't run right, honestly. I'm gonna unravel my tape. That's why I taped it, because I knew I was gonna have to take it off again. All right, so it looks like we do just have our 2 wires here. I heat shrink the rest of them just because I didn't want loose ends and I didn't want to cut them out of the harness completely. Blue with a black stripe is coolant temp for the gauge, and yellow with a red stripe is tachometer. The red stripe, I think of red line. Blue, I think of water. That's an easy way to remember that. Before I cut this and install the adapter, actually, I want to take this on a test drive and show you guys what it actually looks like now. That way you can tell the difference when the adapter is on. All right, check it out. First gear. It's reading 1500. That should be at least 3 grand right there. Second gear, that's reading way too low. All right, we'll take it back. Probably should have started with that, but it's all right. First thing we're gonna do, let's look at each wire color on the adapter and see what they do. Black, obviously is gonna be ground. Red, 12 volts power. Now this is ignition power, it says, which basically means this should only get power when the key is turned on. Purple wire, this goes from the signal to the control box. Okay, this purple one needs to connect on the S13 side from the KA, and then yellow wire to the tach. This is the body harness. The body harness goes to the tach, so then we'll connect the yellow on this side. Sounds kind of confusing, but once I cut the wire and put it on there, I'll show you how it works. Another thing is we're gonna have to find a wire, hopefully down here, that's ignition only, because I don't want to have to run a whole new wire all the way to the floorboard over here. I just realized my multimeter batteries are dead, and these take special batteries. I'm not trying to run to the store right now. I also don't have a test light. I don't usually use test lights. I just use my multimeter instead. But I did find this sub harness with a light bulb on it, which is a test light. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure that this light actually works. So let's find power somewhere. So I chose one of these boxes. This is actually the keyless entry box. white with a red stripe. Usually a white wire can be 12 volts at all times. That's not always the case, but in this case, it is. Look at that, hook that to ground, and we got light bulb. An orange wire on the engine harness usually means start signal, which means it'll only get power on ignition. And ignition on is what we're looking for, so let's try this wire here. It's also really thick. That's another good indicator that it's probably a power wire. We'll just shove it in here really quick, and then we'll touch this to ground. No light. Let's turn the key on. Still connected in there, back to ground. Hey, look at that. We have found the source of power. Let's get the heat shrink off of this orange wire. We need that for power. And then our tachometer signal, we are gonna cut. We're gonna cut out the solder joint in the middle. One side and the other. And then we'll prep the tachometer wire. I love this tool. I don't even know what it's called, but I guess it's a wire stripper, but like what kind of wire stripper? I don't know, but it's awesome. This is for the adapter. And we also have to find a solid ground over here. I'm using the known good power source, the orange wire, and then we have an all black wire coming from the KA harness, and when those are connected, we have a complete circuit, which tells me this is a good ground. Now I already knew this would be a good ground, so probably not the best way to verify circuits. You really should set your voltmeter to ohms, and you want to put one lead on one side of the black wire and the other lead on bare metal, such as a door jamb or something. And you want it to be 0 ohms. That's how you know it's a good ground. Before we wire this box in completely, let's dial in the settings, because there are different settings depending on what engine or cluster you have. We're gonna access that by taking off these 2 screws. All right, wow, that's a very crazy looking motherboard. Let's take a second and figure out this list. Original engine on your vehicle. Okay, so originally it was a 6-cylinder. New engine on your vehicle, 4-cylinder. Just the number 2 is pushed down. Okay, looks like all 4 are pushed down. 1, 3. Okay. Wow, it goes up to 12 cylinders? You could put a 12-cylinder in a 4-banger car. That'd be nuts. With all 4 of the knobs pointed down, it looks like it was set up for a 12-cylinder car that had a 10-cylinder swap. That ain't me. Not yet. And you guys already know, we're using solder stick connectors. There we go. Looks pretty good. Now before I wrap all of this up and make it look nice and tuck it away, I want to take it for a test drive to make sure I connected everything correctly. So let's take it for a spin. Oh my gosh, I left the key on too long. Dang it. Well, that brings us to today's video sponsor, HOPCREW Jumppack. This HOPCREW Jumppack is rated to start every single gasoline engine and diesel engines up to 12 liters. Now this may not be a 12-liter engine, but it definitely is a truck motor. But you guys already know this Jumppack with 6,000 peak amps is gonna start it up no problem. Power it on, shows our percentage. Oh, there's even a light over here. Hook up our leads. Looks like they only fit in here one way, that's good. Red to power, black to ground. And just like that, you can already see it says ready to go. These are definitely really good to have on hand, especially if you're on a road trip or driving through the winter, because car batteries tend to go out at the worst possible time. I mean, is there ever really a convenient time where your car battery dies? Now the front of this Jumppack also has a USB output feature. I'm curious if it'll have fast charging capabilities, and it does right there. Not only is this a beefy Jumppack, but it's also a beefy portable charger. Thank you HOPCREW for sponsoring this video, and as always, I'll leave the link below for you guys to check it out. All right, let's test drive. It always looks so wild when it's mid-project and all your wires are hanging out. It's like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna run? And to answer that, no, it's not gonna work. We got no signal. Back on the driveway. Let's verify we hooked this up correctly. I hooked it up right. Well, I've just confirmed that the power and ground do still work. Orange wire to black wire, so that's good. It just tells me that this thing is faulty. I'm gonna see if I can flip any switches and see if it'll do anything. Probably turn the car off first. So this is set up correctly. Up, down, up, 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 down, up, up. All right, let's pretend that it had an 8-cylinder then. Up, down, up, down. No change. I wonder if I switch out the wires. Maybe the directions were wrong. Maybe it should have been yellow was the input and purple was the output. Let's try that. I've swapped the wires. I just twisted them for now because I have very low faith this is gonna work. I set this back to the original 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder swap. Still nothing. Well, that's a bummer. At least you guys know now not to buy that product. I'll have to order a different tachometer adapter and try that all over again. But at least we figured out what wire colors we need to attach. So next, let's diagnose the noise coming from this wheel. For your enjoyment, I'm gonna fly over this speed bump. Which, fun fact, they installed this speed bump because my brother and I would fly down this road when we were younger. Now it's coming in handy. Hopefully my camera doesn't fly off. I actually did not hear the clunk. I think actually it only makes a sound at lower speed, so. There's another speed bump. Let's try this one. Alright, maybe pulling into the driveway will get some noise out of it. Oh, I heard it that time. Alright, either way, let's jack this thing up and see what's going on under there. Stock height perks, I can jack it straight from the subframe. Before I take off the wheels, I leave them nice and tight so I can give it a nice shakedown and see if anything is loose. So that one's good. Let's check this side. Alright, nice and tight. Oh, I forgot these are nice lug nuts. Can't just drop them on the floor. That's the problem with having nice things. It takes longer. Alright, let's see what we got. Oh man, these are blown. These are the tension arms. I'm willing to bet the sway bar link's making that noise. Tie rod end boot torn. Such an interesting suspension setup. Huh. Sway bar link bushings also torn. Alright, looks like we have to make a parts list. I will also note that this shock is dripping with fluid. It's just soaking wet. So even that shock itself could be making noise. Out of curiosity, I pulled out my S14 spindle coilover control arm combo here. And I'm just wondering if I can somehow make this work on here. Just from looking at it, it looks like the tension arm and the lower control arms are basically in the same position. The hardest part is going to be figuring out where the upper hat mounts to. I think ultimately if I want to do this kind of conversion or swap, I'm going to need an S14 to make a jig out of to make sure that I get those top hats in the right spot. But even still, the shock towers on the Z are wavy. It's got this weird bulge to it. So I don't know if I would need to cut this out and weld in a flat plate. I'll have to think about it. I think if I make the jig first on the S14 and see how that lines up on the Z, that'll be a great start, a great idea. But I don't have an S14 and I don't really know anyone with an S14 that'll let me do something like that. I guess if someone has an S14 shell pop up around here, that'll be a sign. But until then, I'll just keep brainstorming. But this would simplify the front suspension significantly. And I know the S14 suspension is perfect for drifting. Decisions. What do you guys think? What would you do if you were in this position? Keep the Z stuff or send it into an S14? So recently Omar sent me some links to Yahoo auctions in Japan, and I ended up bidding on a pair of wheels that I've always wanted, and they actually just came in the mail probably 30 minutes ago. I'm actually on my way to Andrew's house right now to get them mounted with new tires. I couldn't resist. Here they are, some work XT7s. We got the Z completely loaded up. It almost didn't fit, but I made it happen. Stacked. Ooh, it's always good to see your R32, Andrew. Such a beautiful machine. Now we load up the Z with all the goodies. How does it look on your Skyline? Damn. Let's see. Baller. Dude, that is sick. Let's trade. Trade? Okay, straight trade. I'm down. Actually. No hubcaps? No, it didn't come with any. Put your AVS center caps on it. Thanks, Andrew. No problem. God, that's so good. 1JZ and R32. So I'm getting fuel in my 240 and I cannot make this up. I literally just ran out of gas right here. Max lean. Dude. What are the chances of that? That's literally how far the car needs to go. Am I gonna have to push this? I actually ran out of fuel right here. Yeah! It was sputtering on the way in and gave out. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Wow, that was so nice that guy helped me. What are the chances of that? Literally just died right there. Dang, 14 gallons already? That's wild. All right, I just did the calculation for every fill up. This time the average fuel economy was 16.7 miles to the gallon. Although it did include a drift event on there, so I guess that kind of makes sense. The last few videos, we've been talking about how you can tell what side the fuel door is on. And here is the fuel pump icon. We always go over this. So here we go, the handle is on the right side. So that would mean that the fuel door should be on that side of the car, right? But it's on this side. It's the same icon on the Z, but the Z pump is on the opposite side. So this car definitely boosts it. Oh, we got exactly 400 kilometers to this trip. Good to know we can push it to 400 kilometers. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, why did I run the fuel so low? In a recent video, I replaced the fuel pump and the fuel hanger at the same time, actually with the fuel tank. So everything in the back is new. This fuel tank does have a dent on the bottom. Yeah, that's pretty big. Maybe someday I'll hammer that out, but for now, it'll work. And since I also replaced the sending unit, the gauge is gonna read differently. Every sending unit reads a little bit different. So I learned really quickly that this fuel gauge does not lie. My last setup, I was able to drive past the dot on the E. So now I know when it's on the dot, it actually means E. I don't know about you guys, but I am so eager to try on the new wheels onto the 240. I was originally gonna throw these on the front, but the more I think about it, I kind of want to put these on the rear instead. That'd be the quickest solution to fixing my rubbing issue. Fitment is honestly too good in the back. Can't fit anything in there. It's actually probably sitting on it right now. Now, since I know everyone's going to be wondering what the specs are, these are 17 by 9 plus 17. As for the tire size, we have a 215/45. It's like the best spec for an S chassis. These are 17 by 9.5 plus 15. So these rears actually ran a little too big, which explains why it rubbed so much. Jeez. Damn. Which wheel did you guys like better? Personally, I think I like all the matching chromes. But then again, this is my all-time favorite wheel, and I've been running the reps until I was able to find the real versions for basically the entire duration of the ownership of this car. Even when I was 4-lug, I had the 4-lug version, but man, this does look pretty sick. White on white-ish? Man, this thing is a mess. I need to clean it up. Look at all the marks on here still. Way better. Now, I also began using the heat gun on this rear lip to try to make it fit better, because if you guys remember, there's a fat gap here. I'm gonna do it to this side next. Apparently, if you heat up fiberglass enough, it likes to mold easier, so. Man, that is much better. I also added a mounting screw to the bottom, and the lip actually was able to fold in the right direction. So now it looks like it's meant to be on the car. Ah, what a difference. Since we got the 240 out here, let's do this trim piece next. If you guys remember when I was putting this car together for the first drift event, I didn't get my clips in time from Nissan to correctly mount this, so I just put a piece of electrical tape, which did the job until it didn't. It was flapping around on the highway, so it's alright. So these clips slide down into the trim itself, and then these go into the body. Just one more piece to the puzzle. I'm still waiting on the new tachometer adapter to show up for the Z, because I will feel bad posting a video that has very little progress in it. You guys know how we do it on this channel. We get stuff done. What's going on, Mr. Tim?
What's up, dude? Has that been revealed? Stop it.
Revealed.
Dude, these look really nice. I'm a big fan. These are discontinued now. They don't even make them anymore. Nice combo, dog. Looks like my RC drift car.
Oh my gosh. Mans was not lying. White on chrome.
It's a little dirty. D-car.
Well, now that Tim's here, we can test mount the wing. This thing is so cool. Ooh. Yeah, it's like...
Get the fitment for me. Nice.
Yeah, there we go, there we go. Dude.
It's quite wild.
That does look crazy. Like, hangs off the back quite a bit.
But right now it's looking crazy, but with that aggressive kit to finish it off, I think it will be acceptable.
I agree.
Probably.
Definitely needs the rest of the kit for this to work.
Yeah, right now. But it's not.
Dude, it's not bad. Okay, also, if the car is lowered, because with it at stock height.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, dude, from the back this looks sick.
It's got a third brake light too?
Yeah.
Well, a fourth one now.
Yeah. Fourth brake light. Damn, looks good. We waited for it and it finally came. This is an alternate tachometer adapter, and this product also states that it can convert speed sensor, the gas signal, diesel tach. So I'm pretty excited to try this one out. Looks like it's really good quality. Guess we gotta tear this car back apart. Yeah, see? All cleaned up. Now this may look a little different than it did before, and that is because I have extended the wires. Nothing has changed. These are the same wires that we used earlier. I just made them longer. And I also tried to color coordinate them. So this is the box that we're going to be using. And it looks like we're going to have to stick the wires within the side of it, tighten it down. And there's a whole bunch of options that we can put it in. Now, after reading the directions, it's very simple. It's basically the exact same thing as the last box that we used, except there's a digital screen on this new box that we have to set up the parameters for. Red is gonna go to ignition plus. Yellow is gonna be our wire to the tach, body harness. Purple is gonna be our signal from the engine, and black is gonna be ground. So we have power, ground, tach input down here, and tach output down here. Now when I install the wires into this box, I actually fold them in half, like this, and then put them in. I feel like it gets a better grip that way. Now the directions do have two options for tachometer output. There's normal one, and then there's a high voltage. It says use high voltage only if normal doesn't work. Now that we have all the wires connected, the next thing we need to do is program the box. Press and hold the set switch while turning the ignition on. It's got a dash, okay. Release the set switch, the display will show speed. Okay, speed. Tap increase until it shows tach. Increase, tach. Tap the set switch, and then tap increase until 9AS is shown. Okay, set. 9AS, all right. Now that it says 9AS, we need to hit set. Okay, now it says in. So in means what you're putting into the car. So we have a 4-cylinder, so we need to go increase until it says 4. All right, so there's 8-cylinder, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1. You can put a 1-cylinder? Wow. 4-cylinder, okay. We're gonna hit set. Out. Okay, increase. Oh, no, gotta hit set. Okay. Now, out is what it's going into. So this is a 6-cylinder car. 4, 5, 6. Set. All right. When finished, turn the key off or select back. Back. All right, let's turn the key off. That's all the directions, so I think we should start it up and see if it works. Why isn't it starting? Oh, always something with these cars. Oh, it's reading. Why is my car running so rough right now? It's probably mad that I took the 240 out. Yo, it looks like it reads correctly. What? All right, test drive. Let's test drive it. I'm so hyped. I swear, my brain gets so much serotonin when things actually work out. Gnarly. I almost think it reads too high. I think we need to find out what red line's at. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think this is reading correctly. 2 grand, shift around 3 grand. Yeah, that's right. All right, but we still got to find out what the red line is. Very well. Whew. Now for those of you who want to use something like this, I use the Dakota digital box. That's what it's called. SGI100BT. Signal interference box. Now I really need to clean these wires up. I have an idea of how I'm going to do it though. I actually use this on my 240, but I have this nylon wrapping that kind of goes around the wiring and cleans it up so much. There's only 4 wires, so we can use the smaller gauge. So this is how I try and prepare the wires that are about to be wrapped. I'll put a piece of tape where I want the length to be for the shielding, and I'll also tape the base as well. That way it holds it nice and tight. And before you slide on your shielding, you want to put on a piece of heat shrink because it'll clean it up really well. I'll show you what I mean. Oh, actually, I don't have big enough heat shrink. Looks like my big size is gone. Since we don't have heat shrink, we're just gonna slide this on and we'll use tape to secure it. The shielding kind of works like one of those Chinese toys. I forgot what they're called, but when you scrunch it together, it gets wider, and then when you pull it, it gets tighter. So you gotta kind of scrunch it up and fish this through the whole thing. It's real fun. And when you're all finished up, it could look something like this. Now this is why I suggested using the heat shrink. The electrical tape does get the job done, but the heat shrink is just cleaner overall. But it's not like this is going to be seen anyways, so I'm not too worried about it, but just a good habit to get into. And I extended these wires in the first place because this Dakota box is a lot bigger than that smaller box that I originally was using. And I was just gonna tape up that smaller box with this harness, but this has mounting holes, so I'm gonna probably try and tuck it up here and mount it on something or zip tie it to something. You never know with these cars, right? And now the sub harness looks legit. And also no wires were cut on the KA harness or the Z harness. Just use our jumper harness. I love that. This looks much better. And I ended up tucking that box away right up here. The wiring harness goes through the back. Can't even see it. And I put a small zip tie just to hold it in place. Glove box will be on it and you won't even know it's there. Perfect. And if you have a chance, check if you got unsubscribed. People are saying that YouTube still randomly unsubscribes them from my channel, and I don't know why. So make sure you're not one of the culprits. I do have an event coming up in Rockford soon. I'm gonna leave that link below for you guys to check out if you're nearby and wanna stop by. We will be doing RC drifting at my booth, so if you have one, bring it out and we'll drift. See you guys next time. Peace. We got the police here. Let's see what they have to say.